In talking with people, don't begin by discussing the things on which you differ. Begin by emphasizing and keep on emphasizing the things on which you agree. Keep emphasizing if possible that you are both striving for the same end and that your only difference is one of method and not of purpose. Get the other person saying yes, yes at the outset. Keep your opponent if possible from saying no. A no response, according to Professor Overstreet, is the most difficult handicap to overcome. When you have said no, all your pride of personality demands that you remain consistent with yourself. You may later feel that the no was ill-advised. Nevertheless, there is your precious pride to consider. Once having said a thing, you feel you must stick to it. Hence, it is of the very greatest importance that a person be started in the affirmative direction. The skillful speaker gets at the outset a number of yes responses. This sets the psychological process of the listeners moving in the affirmative direction. It is like the movement of a billiard ball. Propel in one direction and it takes some force to deflect it, far more force to send it back in the opposite direction. The psychological patterns here are quite clear. When a person says no and really means it, he is or she is doing far more than saying a word of two letters. The entire organism, glandular, nervous, muscular, gathers itself together into a condition of rejection. There is usually imminent but sometimes an observable degree of physical withdrawal or readiness for withdrawal. The whole neuromuscular system, in short, sets itself on guard against acceptance. When, to the contrary, a person says yes, none of the withdrawal activities takes place. The organism is in a forward-moving, accepting, open attitude. Hence, the more yes we can at the very outset induce, the more likely we are to succeed in capturing the attention for our ultimate proposal. It is a very simple technique, this yes response, and yet how much it is neglected. It often seems as if people get a sense of their own importance by antagonizing others at the outset. Get a student to say no at the beginning, or customer, child, husband or wife, and it takes the wisdom and the patience of angels to transform that bristling negative into an affirmative. This use of this yes technique enabled James Eberson, who was a teller in the Greenwich Savings Bank in New York City, to secure a prospective customer who might otherwise have been lost. This man came in to open an account, said Mr. Eberson, and I gave him our usual form to fill out. Some of the questions he answered willingly, but there were others he flatly refused to answer. Before I began the study of human relationship, I would have told this prospective depositor that if he refused to give the bank this information, we should have to refuse to accept this account. I am ashamed that I have been guilty of doing that very thing in the past. Naturally, an ultimatum like that made me feel good. I had shown who was boss, that the bank's rule and regulations couldn't be flouted. But that sort of attitude certainly didn't give a feeling of welcome and importance to the man who had walked in to give us his patronage. I resolved this morning to use a little horse sense. I resolved not to talk about what the bank wanted, but about what the customer wanted. And above all else, I was determined to get him saying yes from the very start. So I agreed with him. I told him the information he refused to give was not absolutely necessary. However, I said, suppose you have money in the bank at your death, wouldn't you like to have the bank transfer it in your next of kin who is entitled to it according to law? Yes, of course, he replied. Don't you think, I continued, that it would be a good idea to give us the name of your next of kin so that in the event of your death we could carry out your wishes without error or delay? Again he said yes. The young man's attitude softened and changed when he realized that we aren't asking for this information for our sake but for his sake. Before leaving the bank, this young man not only gave me complete information about himself, but he opened at my suggestion a trust account naming his mother as the beneficiary for his account, and he had gladly answered all the questions concerning his mother also. I found that by getting him to say yes from the outset, he forgot the issue at stake and was happy to do all the things I suggested. Socrates, the Gadfly of Athens, was one of the greatest philosophers the world has ever known. He did something that only a handful of men in all history have been able to do. He sharply changed the whole course of human thought, and now, 24 centuries after his death, he is honored as one of the wisest persuaders who ever influenced this wrangling world. His method? Did he tell people they were wrong? Oh no, not Socrates. He was far too adroit for that. His whole technique, now called the Socratic method, was based upon getting a yes response. He asked questions with which his opponent would have to agree. He kept on winning one admission after another until he had an armful of yes. He kept on asking questions until finally, almost without realizing it, his opponents found themselves embracing a conclusion they would have bitterly denied a few minutes previously. The next time we are tempted to tell someone he or she is wrong, let's remember old Socrates and ask a gentle question, a question that will get the yes response. The Chinese have a proverb pregnant with the age-old wisdom of the Orient. He who treats softly goes far. They have spent 5,000 years studying human nature. Those cultured Chinese, and they have garnered a lot of perspicacity. He who treats softly goes far. So remember principle 10, get the other person saying yes immediately. So friends, how did you like the video? Please comment. Don't forget to share the video. I'm showing you this principle from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. There are so many other useful principles you can find in the book. You can buy the book from description. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a self-help book which is the pioneer of this genre. Written by Dale Carnegie and published in 1936, it has sold over 30 million copies. It has been edited and reprinted several times. Please subscribe Weekend channel.